It's a common theme among movies and TV shows adapted from video games to be, well, bad. Most of the times, a majority of what makes a video game great is left on the floor. And with the Halo TV series now streaming on Paramount Plus, we're seeing early reviews come in, and it's interesting. So, was Halo able to break the mold? Let's take a look. So, what's the story of the show? The Halo series has been around for 21 years, and in the gaming industry, that's a lifetime. Players have taken on the role of an enhanced Spartan soldier, known as the legendary Master Chief, who is just as iconic as Gordon Freeman of the Half-Life series. Fans of the series have spent countless hours navigating the universe of Halo as Master Chief, as the human race fights against the alien force known as the Covenant. Naturally, as with any video game series that earns a legendary status across the gaming industry, there was bound to be a studio vying for the rights to make a Halo TV series. The show was confirmed to be in active development all the way back in 2015, but its release dates were pushed back several times. And finally, after a grinding wait by fans of the series, the first 2 episodes of the show were released on Paramount Plus on March 24th, 2022. Without getting into any major spoilers, what do we currently know about the story of the show? And is it going to follow the same structure as the video games it's based on? Based on Gordon Levin's words, president of programming at Showtime, the TV show will focus on a new spin to the Halo series, whilst being respectful of the canon. Adding to Levin's words, head of transmedia at 343 Industries, Kiki Wolfkill, said that the series will attempt to balance both fans' expectations of what a Halo TV series should be and showing the audience something they haven't seen before. Kiki went on to say that finding a balance between what fans have already seen and experienced through the games and what they have yet to see through a different creative lens is extremely challenging. And there's no denying that. We've seen previous iterations of TV shows and movies that were adapted from video games fail simply because they couldn't remain true to both fans' expectations or the lore of the games that inspired them. But Kiki has also expressed confidence that the creative challenge in creating a memorable and enthralling experience for fans is something she and her team are excited to navigate, whilst also delivering a series that pays homage to the original Halo. Those are certainly confident words, but we're just hoping the show holds up to Halo standards. We've seen what happens otherwise. Hitman. But there's an all-important question we need answered. Who's playing the Chief? It's a big deal winner when an actor is cast in an adaptation of a video game. Usually the filmmakers go with profitable names, like Mark Wahlberg for Max Payne, because it markets easily. But with Master Chief, it's a different league entirely. Most people have never seen the Spartan with his helmet off, so casting someone with the acting chops to pull off a masterful Master Chief is difficult, to say the least. But we do have the lead, and he's not just anyone. Tony Award-winning Pablo Schreiber will lead the show as Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. Now, granted, his appearance isn't like that one time we saw Chief's face in the games, but he is more than enough street cred to uphold the mantle of the Spartan Commando, being a regular in the Law & Order universe, and having his career start as Nicholas Sobotka in The Wire. Yeah, the man began his career in one of the most critically acclaimed TV shows of all time, so we think he'll bring more than enough finesse to the character. And with 2 episodes already released, we didn't have to dig too deep to find out what the critics had to say. Did Halo make the critics happy? Critics were able to enjoy the first 2 episodes of the show after Paramount Plus made them available for an early viewing, and it was lukewarm. Entertainment Weekly's Darren Franich compared the show to The Mandalorian, where a helmeted warrior suffering from flashbacks of his war-torn youth teams up with a young accomplice for space adventures. But that's where the comparison ends. Franich stated that the show was as thrilling as a meeting and didn't have the heart that its older brother The Mandalorian does, and that's a huge red flag in our book. After his viewing of the first 2 episodes, Polygon's Joshua Rivera said that he couldn't find a reason to keep watching. Well, what about the fantastical, gorgeous space stuff that we're expecting? Well, Rivera said that it wasn't quite legendary. It was quite subpar according to him, which doesn't inspire confidence in us. It's not looking too great, but there's a more positive review by Chase Hutchinson of Collider, who said even though the show's narrative seemed quite scattered, it attempted to find a balance between old and new, and ended up with a sci-fi core, which is a solid adaptation of the games. If we're honest here, we're still eager to watch the show for ourselves and see the origins of Petty Officer John 117 play out in live action. But we're unsure of the Chief removing his mask in the show. Is that a good idea? The answer is no, according to a lot of the fans who expressed their dislike of the decision to unmask the Chief before the show was even aired. And it makes sense, because we've never seen Master Chief without his iconic helmet and armor since 2001. With mixed reactions from critics, let's take a look at what die-hard fans of the series had to say. Obviously, with a long-standing video game series as its inspiration, there will be an entire spectrum of reactions, from the very positive to the extremely negative. And with 2 episodes out, the show seems to be dividing fans already. Fans both love and hate the show, and those who hate it are vocal about about their dislike of the changes made to the show, especially on Twitter, which we all know is a haven for calm discourse. First, the negative reactions. Fans took to Reddit to express their irritation with the show, with many Reddit users, most particularly user Kiva Kins, who wrote that a striking issue with the show is the robotic dialogue, and seeing as how the budget for TV shows goes up in the tens of millions, this shouldn't be the case. And Halo has a budget of $90 million. Fans obviously expected more. User Disturbed Shifty expressed frustration that most of the characters just seem wrong in their characterization, citing Catherine Halsey as being dumber than her game counterpart. But the user acknowledged that Master Chief is the least wrong version of a character, and that doesn't really feel like a compliment. Disturbed Shifty also brought up an interesting point regarding the scale of the series, the weaponry in particular not reaching the standard expected by the fans, with the weapons looking plastic and flimsy when compared to their gorgeously designed game counterparts. The Redditor noted these particular inconsistencies in narrative, characterizations, and design as being the primary reasons why they might not continue watching the rest of the series. But where fans were left disappointed by the show, some really loved it. Now, the positive fan reactions. It just takes a few swipes through Twitter hashtags to find fans of the video games who've taken a liking to the series so far. A diehard fan of the Halo series, known as Wernisage on Twitter, praised the premiere episode, saying that they loved everything, from the characters to the action the show presented, which should be a given considering the first-person narrative of the video games. Twitter user John Quinn had an even more positive reaction to the premiere, who said the series so far has met all of his expectations, and we're sure that any executive who saw the reaction was quite happy to see it and breathed a sigh of relief. While fans were upset about the decision to unmask the Chief, a Twitter user named Jorge Revelorio was happy about the decision, with the obvious reason being that the series must do things differently than the games in order to differentiate itself. We'll be watching the entirety of the show ourselves too, and whether we like it or not, we're hoping Pablo Scriber brings his A-game to the script, keeping us engaged, the same way that Pedro Pascal has done with his role as Din Djarin in The Mandalorian. How long will the season be? Showtime initially ordered 10 one-hour-long episodes, which is common for a big-budget TV series these days. Anything more than that runs the risk of boring the audiences, though certain shows are able to break that curse. But Showtime dropped that number to 9 in the hope that Halo's rich history and legacy will deliver audiences one of the most ambitious TV shows ever. No pressure at all, right? And that makes us wonder, will there be a season 2? Back in February of 2022, Paramount announced that it had already renewed the TV series for a second season, so unless there's a major surprise cancellation, which we hope doesn't happen, we'll be seeing Master Chief again sometime in 2023 if it goes according to schedule. And that's all for today's video. What was your reaction to the new Halo series? Are you going to make it past the second episode? Drop your review of the show in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you like the video, and hit subscribe so you don't miss any future content. We'll see you in the next one.